Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Get started, no? Hari Om.
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। गीता ध्यानम्। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्धत्वा भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यास विशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्रा येन त्वया भारततैल्यपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय तोत्रवैत्रेकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो मुक्ता गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सस्तुतिर्भोक्ता तं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। भीष्मद्रोणतडा जयद्रथला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थाम विकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी कीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरननदी कैवर्तककेशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम्। लोके सज्जन षट्परैरहराः पेपीयमानं मुदा याथारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिन श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणीन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुवन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैर्गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यद्ध्यानं न विदुःसुरासुरगणा। देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः।
Hari Om. So today we start revision of chapter 4, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. But before that, let us see, what we have gone through till now. Chapter 1 presented the nature of samsara, the world, and the cycle of life and death, the beginningless, solutionless cauldron that stems from aham and mama, the sense of I and mine. And that sense of I and mine leads to what we saw is termed as swajanam. Swajanam means my people. Like Arjuna was, afflicted by this aspect of these are my people. How do I wage a war against my own people? When this aspect of aham and mama are there, then objectivity is lost. And when objectivity is lost, then the person cannot think properly. When you cannot think properly, delusion arises. That leads to efficiency loss. Efficiency loss leads to poor performance. And when that happens, sorrow and delusion, shoka and moha sets in. And that becomes the inner virus within us, not a virus that is caused by external circumstances. And Bhagavan told us, the message from him was that watch for shoka and moha and eliminate them, remove them at the root itself. In chapter 2, it started with Bhagavan giving Arjuna a royal dressing down. And then Arjuna realizing that he was indeed afflicted by this problem of shoka and moha arising out of this aspect of aham and mama. And once he realized this, and he realized that that also, as per him, came from Karpanya dosha. And then he submitted to Bhagavan. And he said, you are my guru, please teach me. What should I do? Please note, at that stage, he did not say that you are my Bhagavan or you are God. He said, you are my guru and please teach me. I submit to you. And chapter 2, after this initial dressing down by Krishna and submission by Arjuna, then what unfolded was a summary of the entire Upanishadic wisdom. Whatever is there in the Upanishads is actually summarized in chapter 2, not just what is there in the Bhagavad Gita. And this wisdom essentially is about the nature of the self and devotion to Lord, to Bhagavan. And one of the fundamental aspects that Bhagavan Sri Krishna brought out was the aspect of swadharma. Swa means mine, dharma is duty. As against the concept of my people, the aspect of my duty. And Bhagavan said that swadharma cannot be performed to perfection if there is aham and mama. Because aham and mama leads to shoka and moha leads to swadharma paripalada, which essentially means what should be there but is missing. And that paripalada, what should be there but is missing, leads to swadharma nasha, which is dereliction of duty. And Bhagavan instructs Arjuna to perform karma yoga and also distinguishes two aspects of karma yoga. The first aspect being Sankhya yoga, which is attainment of Atma Vidya and Swadharma Vidya. Atma Vidya is knowledge about the self. Swadharma Vidya is knowledge about one's duty. And the second aspect is Buddhi Yoga, which is perfection in action. And this then becomes the solution to this problem of delusion. And Bhagavan gave us the message of Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. Maintain equipoise in extremities. Because there will be extremities, and the one who learns to maintain equipoise in those extremities then is able to manage life in a much better manner. Chapter 3, which we completed in the last satsang, the revision of chapter 3, which we completed in the last satsang, there Arjuna gets clarity on how he should perform karma yoga and also why karma yoga is meant for him. And he cannot bypass and focus on other aspects which are later on in the spiritual path. And for him, why action is superior to dhyana or inaction. And Bhagavan introduces in this chapter this concept of Yajna spirit, or the spirit of cooperative endeavor. Then we saw that he talks about the causal chain and how he instructs human beings to not be responsible for the link or the chain getting broken, because the two crucial aspects in the chain, which are Yajna, or the spirit of sacrifice while performing action, and karma, which is action itself, karma yoga, those are very heavily dependent on human and human choice, the human free will. Then he introduced another wonderful concept called Loka Sangram or Loka Sangraha. Loka, people, Sangraha, collection, and how a person can hold this collection of people together, collection of human beings together, by becoming an ideal and an inspiration for them. And Bhagavan, continuing with his emphasis on performing karma and karma yoga, performing one's duties, said, Arjuna, look at me. I, as an avatar and as a Bhagavan, I perform my duties. And he gave examples of how he does that. That led to Arjuna asking a question in terms of, what is this one thing that prevents us from going on this right path? And Bhagavan said that that one single enemy is desire. And he also quickly joined anger with desire. And these two aspects, or the single aspect of desire, which is the root cause, is that enemy which then causes the problem all over. And the body, mind, and intellect, the nature, the personality, the swabhava of the person, that stems from the nature at the macro level, which is Prakriti. And the nature at the macro level is nothing but the qualities of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And from that comes the body, the mind, and the intellect. The micro nature or the micro personality from the macro nature. And Bhagavan said that the only way to handle these elements, and then through that, this enemy of desire, is to handle it at the root level, at the foundation itself. And how do you do that? Establish yourself in the self. Atmanam Atmana. And slay this enemy, which is in the nature of desire, Kama Rupam. And the message that Bhagavan gave to us in this chapter was Samachara. Perform all your actions with utmost devotion, dedication, and perfection. Now coming to chapter 4, Bhagavan says that performing Karma Yoga in a Samachara manner, in the right manner, in the prescribed manner, leads to renunciation of the same karma in knowledge. And this renunciation of action in knowledge, that Bhagavan will teach us now. How he teaches that is by showing us how action can be recognized as inaction and how inaction can be recognized as action. And this recognition comes from the knowledge. Inaction is not stopping to act. Inaction is not stopping to do your swadharma or your duties or not doing karma yoga. But inaction is giving up the notion of I am doing, that doership. And how does one give up the sense of doership? By gaining the knowledge that the individual who performs the action and seeing that action in action, by ability to recognize action in action and inaction in action. Let's not jump the gun right now. We will see Bhagavan is yet to come on that. So let us not try to cross the bridge before we are there. But essentially, this renunciation that comes from this knowledge is what Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, which is in chapter 4. But along with this crucial aspect, Bhagavan also, telling Arjuna that I also perform my duties, O Arjuna. He sheds his workaday clothes. And in chapter 4, possibly for the first time in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan actually adorns his divine apparel in terms of omnipotence and omniscience. And the aura of God descended on the planet Earth in front of human beings in a manner that is comprehensible to human beings, the avatara is presented by God to Arjuna and through Arjuna to us. And this is the avatara rahasya, or the secret of incarnations, that we will learn in this chapter. So I had requested all of you, and I'm sure you have gone through the concept of time and creation before the satsang. That will help us, understand, because Bhagavan tells us that he doesn't refer to it in detail, but he tells us that over time what all has happened in multiple situations or multiple scenes in this chapter, in chapter 4. So with that brief introduction, let us start with chapter 4, introduction of the chapter in verse number 1.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Chaturthodhyayaha. Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yogaha. Shri Bhagavanuvacha. Imam Vivasvati Yogam Proktavanaham Avyayam Vivasvan Manavi Praha Manurikshvaka Vibravita.
So Bhagavan says that this yoga, Imam Yogam, this yoga, I taught to Vivasvan, Vivasvate. Vivasvan is the sun god. And we all know that what has Bhagavan taught up till now? Perform Karma Yoga, right? Now look at sun, look at the sun, look at the god sun. Truly indispensable. If the sun decides not to rise tomorrow morning, this world will come to an end in a jiffy. And not only is the sun truly indispensable, absolutely selfless service with nothing to gain from a selfish perspective, which is exactly what Karma Yoga is. Selfless service. So sun god, because of this reason, represents divinity to all of us. And that is why traditionally human beings have prayed to sun god, because we are sustenance. Sun god is indispensable. The sun is indispensable. Our sustenance, everything that happens in this planet is dependent on the sun. And Bhagavan says that in the very beginning, I taught this same yoga. What this same yoga? What I have taught you till now and what I am going to teach you. What I have taught you till now is essentially Karma Yoga, but I also gave you a summary in chapter 2. All that aspects also. The Jnana Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga, all of that. I taught Vivasvan. And by this, he glorifies this knowledge. Because human beings look up to and pray, irrespective of religion, irrespective of anything, across habits and practices, people pray to sun. And he glorifies this knowledge, saying, I taught this to the sun. And what yoga did Bhagavan give? Bhagavan says, Avyayam. Yoga that is imperishable. Avyaya is something that does not decay. There is no decay. And why is it imperishable? There are 3 reasons why this kind of a knowledge is imperishable. Number 1, because the roots of this knowledge are in the Vedas. And we have seen earlier that the Vedas, the Brahman, the Vedas are vast and they are there forever. They are imperishable. They come back even after the world is pralaya happens. When the world comes back again, then the Vedas are brought back. They are imperishable. The second reason is because the Vedas result in liberation, moksha. And that aspect of liberation is nitya, imperishable. And the third reason is because it definitely gives the result. The definitivity, the definitiveness is also imperishable. And that is the reason why Bhagavan uses the term Avyayam for this yoga. And then he says that Vivasvan taught it to Manu. Manu is, I sent you the video, so let's not go. And Manu taught it to Ikshvaku. Ikshvaku is the son of Manu and one of the initial Rajarishis. We will see what Rajarishis is in a brief while. And what happened after that? Bhagavan continues in verse 2.
Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshyo viduhu sakali neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa.
So Bhagavan says that this knowledge handed over through generations in this manner, the royal sages knew. The Raja Rishis were in the knowledge of yoga. And Raja Rishis, we had seen this earlier. For example, Ajatashatru, Janaka. These are essentially people who are rishis and also kings. See, in those days, the kings themselves became rishis, or rishis themselves became kings. And by virtue of being a rishi, they had the knowledge. By virtue of being the king, they had the power and the authority to ensure the spread of this knowledge among the people. That is why it is very important to elect leaders who are knowledgeable, because they have the power to ensure the authority to influence. But Bhagavan says, in the course of time, Kalena Mahata, we saw what Kalena Mahata is. Mahata, long, this everlasting time. That is what we saw. This, the Yuga after Yuga, the Mahayugas, Yuga of the Chatur Yugas. In the due course of time, Bhagavan says this Yuga was lost, Nashta. And why does this Yuga get lost? The degradation of human society, that happens through the Yugas, caused for this knowledge to get lost, because it went from the fit people, the Raja Rishis, to the unfit people. People who were either Durbala, which means they were weak. Durbala means weak. Weak in what? Not just physically, but also as far as the mind and intellect are concerned. Weak from a body, mind, intellect perspective. And they were Ajitendriya. Jitendra means mastery over the senses. Ajitendriya means had no mastery over their senses. So they were slaves to their own sense organs. So because they were weak and because they were slaves to their own sense organs, they could not safeguard this yoga. And Sri Krishna addresses Arjuna is a standing example now. He's almost on the verge of becoming one such person. And he addresses Arjuna as Parantapa. Parantapa is a person who is able to scorch. Tapa is scorch, burn in this context. The enemy, Paran. And the scorcher of enemies. Arjuna now is standing in the battlefield facing enemies whom he is not able to face. So the biggest enemy for him at that point of time is himself, is his own mind. So in this context, Arjuna, O Parantapa, conquer your own deluded mind, and then you have this army also to conquer after you have conquered your own deluded mind. And Bhagavan says that this very same yoga has been taught or is being taught by him to Arjuna today. That is in the next verse. We will not revise that now, but essentially he says, you are my friend, O Arjuna, you are my devotee. And because of which I am teaching you. And because you have to achieve so much. And this makes Arjuna ask the next question in verse 4.
Arjuna uvacha aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvataha katami tadvijaniya vamadau pruktavaniti. So Arjuna says, O Krishna, later was your birth and prior was the birth of the sun god, of sun. At the time of creation of this universe, of this solar system. You were born before. I know when you were born. We were all born together almost at the same time. How am I to understand that you taught this yoga to
the sun god in the very beginning? This question lays the context for Bhagavan to explain the philosophy of Avatara, the Avatara Rahasya. So this philosophy of Avatara, this is the context with which he starts this teaching about Avatara. The secret, and why is it called secret? Because what we see in the world is what we just, Bhagavan told us in the last chapter. He said gunas. Everything is based, and he will cover this in much more detail later. The three gunas. That is called saguna. So we are all familiar with the saguna aspect. But Bhagavan originally is nirguna. That is why the secret of the nirguna expressing as saguna, with and without gunas, or without and with gunas. The nirguna becoming available as the saguna, appearing as the saguna, visible, perceptible, comprehensible, understandable, interactable. So this concept of Avatara is unique to Sanatana Dharma. Other philosophies refer to Son of God. People who come to the earth are representatives of God, sons of God. But Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma is the only one where it is God, Bhagavan, in various forms. Not a messenger, not the son, not a relative, not a representative. Bhagavan is various forms. To some people, this philosophy of Hinduism and belief has been quite confusing. In fact, Max Muller, the great Max Muller, he criticized this theory of reincarnation, right? And he said, I quote, metaphysical twaddle and scholastic hair splitting. That is what reincarnation is. Twaddle means nonsense. So it has confused people a lot. But people who understand, we'll see what Bhagavan says for people who understand this. Before that, see, avatar. What is avatar? Avatar in Sanskrit means descent, coming down. In Sanatana Dharma, the material appearance or this incarnation or embodiment of a deity, essentially Vishnu, Bhagavan Vishnu, Narayana, on planet Earth. But there are other incarnations also that Sanatana Dharma talks about. But the main are the Dashavatara, as we know. So when Bhagavan becomes available at our level of comprehension, at the human being's level, at the Saguna level of comprehension, coming down from the highest state of formlessness, Nirguna, to a form that can be perceived, that is intelligible, that is understandable. That is why we say coming down, descending. And when Bhagavan decides to come down as an avatara, come down doesn't mean heavens are on top. Somebody pointed out the other day also, I think Rama pointed out, the world is, it doesn't mean you're coming down from heaven to earth. It means descending from a higher state to a lower state. And when Bhagavan descends as an avatara, he assumes a physical form. Not only does he assume a physical form, he has a mind, he has an intellect. He experiences the three gunas, the sattvic, tamasic, rajasic gunas. He experiences all the three gunas. And he interacts with human beings the way everyone interacts with each other. But while experiencing these gunas and interacting with people and other elements of creation, the only way of expression of the avatara is sattvic. The avatara experiences the rajasic and tamasic, but expression is sattvic. And Bhagavan says, even when expressing rajasic qualities, the expression is sattvic. So how do you, that's one thing for us to learn. Like we were saying last time, it is okay to be angry. But how do you express anger in a sattvic manner? Anger is a rajasic nature or quality. But how can you express that in a sattvic manner? One of the ways is to ensure that the anger doesn't touch you. You use it as a transaction and then move on. But anyway, let's not go there. That is for all of us to figure out through the Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavan says, as he continues,
Ajopi sannavyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swamadhishtaya sambhavamyatma mayaya.
so Bhagavan says, Ajaha san api. San api or api san means even though. Ajaha. Ajaha is unborn. Even though unborn, yet coming into being. And avyayatma. Avyayatma is also to be read with ajopi san or api san. So ajo api san, avyayatma api san. Even though imperishable, yet coming into being. So Bhagavan says, even though I am unborn, and even though I am imperishable. So there is no birth for me, there is no death for me. But still I attain a physical form. And he says, attaining this physical form, Bhutanam Ishvaropi San. I incarnate among the Bhutas, among the beings, as their Ishwar, as their Lord, as the Lord of all beings. And then he continues and he says, how does he do it? He says, Adhishtaya Swam Prakritim. Adhishtaya, employing, using my own nature. Sambhavami Atma Mayaya. Sambhavami, I am born or I descend as an avatara. Atma Mayaya, by my own free will. So Atma Mayaya means my own Maya. This will come later. It's quite beautiful when we read this in the Bhagavad Gita later. Bhagavan says, as we have seen before, he says, he actually says that I am all knowing, I am all controlling. That is who Bhagavan is. We have also seen the various qualities of Bhagavan from Aishwarya, right? All knowing, all controlling Lord. He knows the good for all his own creations. And with this knowledge, he applies his own free will, his own Maya, to take a physical form. And thereby, thus taking a physical form, he works. He comes and interacts and works with human beings, along with all of them, like he's a charioteer for Arjuna now. And during the course of this working with the human beings in this physical form, he establishes himself as the Lord of all beings. He uses various techniques to do that, without abandoning the essential attributes of the Nirguna. And that includes what? Includes being free of sin. What is free of sin? Being free of disturbance. That is why Bhagavan is able to express even a Rajasic tendency in a Sattvic manner. Because there is no disturbance, internal disturbance. Sin means internal disturbance, fundamentally. Free of gunas, essentially does not have the gunas. He performs his duties as the avatara. So a few examples which are really interesting. As Lord Narasimha, Bhagavan performed the duty of an avatara by destroying Hiranyakashipu, the Rakshasa. And then, while doing that, Bhagavan was, the avatara Narasimha was extremely angry. He was, because Hiranyakashipu had essentially harassed and more than harassed his biggest devotee. And that's one thing that makes Bhagavan very, very angry, very, very upset. And he had a raging temper. Not only that, the avatara had taken the form of half lion, half man. So, when a lion is, getting hold of the prey, what's the kind of temper in that manifestation. So that raging temper, as Bhagavan, he listened. Prahlada had to plead with him because that temper would have destroyed the entire creation, Bhagavan's own creation. That was the limitlessness of Narasimha's temper at that moment. And Prahlada had to plead with him to calm down. And listening to his devotee, Bhagavan calmed down and safeguarded the world. As Vamana Avatara, as an avatar form, he took the form of an ordinary Brahmin. An ordinary Brahmin priest sought benevolence from the king, the all-giving emperor, Mahabali. And then as Bhagavan, which assumed the purpose of the avatar, grew to immense size, and with 3 gigantic steps in his gigantic avataric form, he took over the 2 worlds, and then the 3rd step, Mahabali himself. As Rama Avatara, he lived the life of an ordinary prince and then an even more ordinary ascetic. And through his various travails, tribulations, struggles, tapas, he demonstrated the perfect way for human beings to live life. Faced all the trials and tribulations of his life. But when the time came when he had to cross the ocean, and it was proving to be impossible to cross the ocean, not Hanuman to cross the ocean, because Hanuman had that power, but this entire army had to cross the ocean. There, he took the form of Bhagavan and warned the ocean to either provide the way or he is going to destroy. Which means what? If the ocean got destroyed, the entire creation would have got destroyed. And as Krishna, we know that, right? All his leelas. He took avatara in the Dwapara Yuga. Okay, among the 4 yugas in the Dwapara Yuga, right? That is when he took avatara. Kali Yuga, the avatara has not yet happened. Or has happened, we don't know. And he had to live among the human beings as them. Playing with the children, taking the cow for grazing, spending time with the gopis, playing an musical instrument, just being a normal child, young boy, adult, throughout his life. But at the same time, every now and then, right from his childhood, had to demonstrate various leelas as Bhagavan. Whether it was lifting the Govardhan mountain on his little finger, whether he was the Damodar avatar that we saw last time in the satsang, whether it was the Vishwarupa, whatever it may be. In fact, yeah, we can spend 2 minutes. In the Sri Krishna Avatara, Bhagavan showed his Rupa 5 times. The first one was the visual of the entire universe in his own mouth to his mother, Yashoda. Then, as the 4-armed Bhagavan to the kings who were set free by Bhima. I'm not going into the details of the stories. I think I covered the stories in the original satsang when we did this chapter. So the 4 kings, Jarasandha had captured them. Bhima killed Jarasandha and freed the kings. And at that time, Sri Krishna showed the kings who were freed by Bhima his 4-armed form. And once again, the Chaturbhuja form. 4-armed Chaturbhuja form is what? Where his 4 arms have the conch, the mace, the lotus, and the Sudarshan Chakra. And that he had shown to sage Muchukund. And in the Hastinapura Sabha, when Bhagavan Sri Krishna went as an emissary for peace, the final chance that he gave to the Kauravas, he had given innumerable chances, but this was the final one. Let us avoid the war. Let us avoid the upcoming destruction. Let us avoid your own destruction. But there also, Duryodhana misbehaved with him. And Sri Krishna had to show his Virat Swarup. And then finally, of course, in Bhagavad Gita, where he shows Arjuna his Vishwarupa. We will come to that later. So to me, when I was going through this, when I said Avatar, when you see Avatar, the first thing that comes to mind after we have seen this movie Avatar is, this James Cameron's movie, Avatar. Okay, and one of the things, and Avatar was one of the beautiful movies, one of the best films that I have seen. And, there was this quote by James Cameron, and I'm quoting him here. But before that, see, basically, before I quote him, we all think that Avatar was successful because of, this visuals that were there. Absolutely jaw-dropping visuals, right? Like this other Indian movie which came now recently, right? The Bahubali. Crazy visuals, right? 3D, one of the best uses of 3-dimension visuals, right? And this imaginary fictional presentation of this biosphere of Pandora, the moon Pandora. But Cameron says, and I quote, he says, Avatar is about finding our home, finding our family, finding our clan, and then protecting that which we have found and earn our place in it. That's why it spoke to every culture in the world. It was dealing with one universal truth of human condition that transcended culture, unquote. And I think that the only aspect that Cameron missed was the aspect of dharma, which we have seen in detail what dharma is. And actually in Avatar, dharma was also a very central aspect. Jake, who was the avatar, he was an upholder of dharma. And by upholding dharma, he protects the tribals, the Navi tribe, and the moon Pandora from the mining operations, which would then have destroyed Pandora, killing its biosphere. So upholding dharma, he does that. He is avatar. Jake is an upholder of dharma. We will see Bhagwan. Every avatar he upholds dharma. We will talk about it shortly. Sri Ramakrishna said, incarnations, and I quote, incarnations are all personifications of Ishvara in the ocean of Sat Chit Ananda. A wave rises in the ocean of Sat Chit Ananda. A wave rises at one place at one time and is called Krishna. And another wave rises at another place at another time, and that is called Christ. Unquote. And Bhagavan now touches upon two aspects of his avatar. When and for what purpose does the infinite bind itself into the finite? Two very famous verses, which were made even more famous by the TV serial Mahabharata. We'll read verses 7 and 8 together.
Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge.
Yada yada, Bhagavan uses it twice. Whenever. Why? He is referring to the time, the yugas, the Mahayugas, the long course of time, the long periods of time. In this long period of time, whenever, what? Dharmasya. Dharmasya is righteousness, the essence of being, the spirit of yajna. We just saw Jake upholds the spirit of dharma when he goes to the Pandora. Glanir bhavati bharata. Glanihi bhavati. Destruction of dharma happens. And how does destruction of dharma happen? By decay, by passing on the knowledge that the yogas that Bhagavan has taught, it goes to unfit people. And when it goes to unfit people, they don't use it well. When they don't use it well, the principles of dharma take a beating. And Bhagavan uses the word he. He means surely, it surely happens. It becomes obvious to everybody. It becomes obvious even to the people. the human beings. It becomes obvious to animals also that this is happening. What is happening? Glanihi bhavati dharmasya. That is happening. Destruction of righteousness. And then Bhagavan says, Yada yada abhyutthanam adharmasya. Whenever again, we have to see that together, by the way. Yada yada is to be seen again. Whenever the rise, abhyutthanam means prevalence, rise of what? Of adharma. Like this in Avatar movie, the human beings going to Pandora and trying to start mining, as if enough mining has not happened on planet Earth. You go to, now they'll go to Mars. I must talk sometime in one of the satsang. Today we won't have time. The Perseverance landed in Mars. Unbelievable, right? A fantastic achievement of human beings. As long as we don't start mining planet Mars also and start killing the biosphere there. We'll come to, Perseverance and Mars later, okay, at some other time. But whenever this rise, whenever the prevalence of adharma is there, adharma is nothing but that which prevents dharma from prevailing. And widespread prevalence of adharma interferes with this cosmic chain that Bhagavan laid out. And that causes harm to creation. Obviously, when something causes harm to something that I have created, I will try to save it, no? Bhagavan doesn't have to try to save it, he does save it. And Bhagavan says, at those times, tada, whenever. At those times, at all those times, Atmanam aham srijamya, or Atmanam srijamya. Atmanam, by my own free will, I take a physical form. Srijami means I acquire a body, mind, intellect, creating body for himself. Like Avatar Jake, he created a body, getting into that, whatever that device was, right? So what Bhagavan has said, James Cameron beautifully, pictorially, like they say, 1,000 words is equal to one image, or a picture presents 1,000 words. So in this movie Avatar, he presented this concept of Avatar. If you have not if you have not deciphered it, please see this movie Avatar again after reading Bhagavad Gita. Great job done by James Cameron to show us what Bhagavan has said long ago. And Bhagavan says, I plunge into action in your world. These are times when Bhagavan directly supervises operations in the world, with specific goals for himself, duties for himself to perform. And why, for what purpose, what is the reason why Bhagavan takes upon himself to do this descending from a higher form to a lower form, from a nirguna to a saguna? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam. Paritranaya, for the protection of the sadhunam, the noble. Vinashaya, for the destruction, the dushkritam. Cha is and for the destruction of the ignoble. For the protection of the noble and for the protection of the ignoble, dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. I am born, sambhavami, with the purpose, the goal of re-establishment of dharma. Dharma samsthapanarthaya, artha. There is a goal, there is a artha. We have seen the 4 arthas of human beings. This is Bhagavan's artha. Re-establishment of dharma is Bhagavan's artha. Like Jake's goal was re-establishment of dharma in that Pandora. Whenever required, yuge yuge. See, wisdom and ignorance. The opposite of wisdom or opposite of knowledge is ignorance. Wisdom. See, wisdom is different from knowledge. Knowledge is scriptural knowledge, textual knowledge, what we read. Wisdom is experienced knowledge, what I have experienced, that aha effect. Once I have realized it, once I have experienced it for myself, like that electricity yoga example that I gave. We all know electricity, we have read it, we have seen physics books, we have mugged it up and rattled it back in examinations. But the only way to experience electricity is to put your finger on that naked wire which has harnessed 420 kilowatts of wattage. When you do that, that jolt that gives you, yeah, now I know what electricity is. So, wisdom and ignorance, goodness, wickedness, these all they reside in the body, mind, and intellect. And as the population of individuals with traits that are ignorant, related to ignorance, related to wickedness, adharmic traits, as populations of individuals with those traits in their body, mind, and intellect paradigm, as that population grows, the society acquires that trait. It is reflected in the society itself. Adharma and dharma are also like that only. They generate in the human heart and they get reflected in society. When adharma abounds, Bhagavan says, abhyutthanam, when the society starts reflecting the traits of adharma and it starts interfering and having an adverse impact on the very existence of this creation. When that happens, Bhagavan says, I manifest. Therefore, he says, to safeguard dharma and to destroy adharma, how does he do? I enable dharmic people, the protectors of dharma, the sadhunam, to flourish. Paritranaya sadhunam. I enable the sadhus to flourish, and vinashaya cha dushkritam. Vinashaya dushkritam. I destroy the people who choke dharma and help adharma flourish. Bhagavan does not protect dharma by deploying security forces, putting a safe vault, locking it up and keeping it inside. He protects dharma by helping people who are the protectors of dharma, the sadhus, and by eliminating people who are the destroyers of dharma. Bhagavan's first goal as an avatar is to protect dharma. If that transforms the ignoble, well and good. Like when he went to the Sabha in Hastinapura, where he wanted to give, my goal is to protect dharma, my goal is not to destroy you, Duryodhana. Please come on track. But when that does not happen, when that is not good enough, then he needs to destroy the other. In his infinite mercy, Bhagavan gives innumerable chances to the Dushkritam to mend their ways. Shishupala got 100 chances. The 101st is when Bhagavan took his Sudarshana Chakra. Similarly, this example that I just gave, Duryodhana. And that when that happens, he Vinashaya Dushkritam. Sri Ramanujacharya says, and I quote, the main purpose of incarnation is the revealing of his adorable form so that all may worship him. The secondary purpose is destruction of those who are opposed to the devotees. And unquote, and I unquote. Even as Bhagavan destroys the ignoble, he showers divine mercy on them. It is said that every soul is dear to Bhagavan. Whether it is Ravana, whether it is Mahabali, whether it is Hiranyakashipu, it is said that in the end he showers them with his divine mercy. And why is Bhagavan sharing the secret, the Avatara Rahasya, for the knowledge of everybody in this planet? That we come to in the next verse, in verse 10.
Itaragabhaya krodhaha madmaya mamupasritaha bahavo jnana tapasa bhuta madbhavamagataha.
So Bhagavan says, I am giving you this knowledge so that you become free. Vita, Vigata. Vita. Vita of what? If you are able to comprehend this avatara, so this is what I had said earlier, for people who are able to understand, not people who are skeptical, people who are able to understand the avatara concept, those people become free of what? Of raga, which is attachment, bhaya, which is fear, and krodha, which is anger. So you become free. And what is this essentially? Raga, attachment, comes from desire. Bhaya comes from desire. Krodha comes from desire. So that big enemy, that one single enemy, Bhagwan is enabling us to be free of that. And this is the true killing or destruction of fear. Once you understand this concept, once you understand the Nirguna Saguna, that is when the fear is eliminated. We are able to perform whatever duties we as human beings have to perform without a sense of raga, bhaya, krodha. Attachment, fear, anger. This transformation occurs when the comprehension of avatara is there. And that is the reason Bhagavan wants to share this secret. Even Bhagavan, in his avatar form, went through so many trials. We just referred to Lord Rama, right? Trials and tribulations. Like Lord Rama, the prince, he had to become an ascetic, live in a jungle. Then, if Rama himself could do that, what should I be afraid of? You know, my trials and tribulations are nothing compared to what Lord Rama had to go through. But this comes only when we comprehend. If we read Ramayana as a storybook, then it will not come. When you comprehend Avatara Rama, when you are able to relate to what Rama went through, then you will say, oh, my life is so easy. I have nothing to fear. I have no attachment. I have nothing to be afraid of or angry of. And when you comprehend Lord Narasimha protected Prahlad. My goodness, I mean, look at the fierceness with which he protected his devotee. And I comprehend the Avatara. I am his devotee. He's going to protect me. There's nothing to be afraid of or angry of. This is the important purpose of Avatara, to teach humans through his own examples and to take care and eliminate their attachment, their fear, and their anger, which is what fundamentally makes what? Makes sin, the disturbance in the mind. Personification of how to deal with trials and tribulations. How to set an ideal. Bhagavan says set an ideal, right? Loka Sangraha. How to set an ideal. How to be sensitive to creation that is around us. How to be benevolent to other elements in the creation. How to live with the spirit of yajna. How to preserve this cosmos while conducting our day-to-day duty and looking after ourselves also. Not in a selfish manner, in an unselfish manner. And by doing all this, create love and respect. Bhagavan, by doing all this, creates this love and respect for Bhagavan. And that love and respect is nothing but devotion. That feeling of the heart and the feeling of the brain together result in devotion. So, the other duty of the Avatara is to build devotion in Bhagavan. And Bhagavan, that's why he says, Manmaya mam upashritaha. Manmaya mam means absorbed in me. Mam upashritaha means taking refuge in me. Manmaya mam upashritaha is nothing but sharanagati. And jnana tapasa. Tapasa is what? Tapasa is austerities. Austerities that lead to knowledge. The tapas that gives rise to knowledge. What knowledge? the knowledge of comprehension, that knowledge that enables comprehension of the avatar. That is Jnana Tapasa. And these three together, Manmaya Mam, Mam Upashrita, and Jnana Tapasa, all these three together, Bhagavan says, leads to purification, Puta. And thus purified, Bhagavan says, Bhavo Agataha Madbhavam. Many people, they have attained my nature. Bhavo Jnana Tapasa Puta Madbhavam Agataha. So first, let go of attachment, fear, anger. Once you have let go of attachment, fear, and anger, by this comprehension, you are able to be absorbed in the Lord. And you are able to take refuge in that avatar. Only if you are able to comprehend will you be able to do that. If you see going back to the movie Avatar, the citizens of the moon, Pandora, how they were devoted to Jake. Complete devotion. Which is what? Love and respect. Full love, full respect. One of them is not enough. Both love and respect together lead to devotion. Manmaya Mam Upashritaha. And then this Jnana Tapasa, the knowledge that comes from this kind of austerity, that then leads to purification. And that purification helps you attain this nature. And nature similar to Bhagavan himself or herself. So a question that comes up, what about those who do not have this comprehension? So even there, see, like we said, Bhagavan is in his ultimate, merciful state. Even for the most ignoble, he ultimately, when he destroys them also, he blesses them. So those who are not able to comprehend are much better than those who he has to destroy, right? So bhakti or devotion in Bhagavan is enabled through the avatar. Bhagavan is Nirguna. And Bhagavan is also Nirakara. Nirguna means no guna, that we have seen. Nirakara means no akara, no form. Avatar is Saguna and Sakara. Has gunas, the three gunas, and has the form, physical being, physical body, mind, and intellect. So I'll come to that question about how does Bhagavan, what does he do to help people who do not get this comprehension of Avatara. Okay, I spoke a little too soon. So the purpose of the Avatara is to establish this connect between human beings and Bhagavan. Bhagavan Vishnu as the protector of the universe. And there is this beautiful, sloka that we also saw when we did this verse, right? I would like to go through it again. Shantagaram Bhujagasayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gagana Sadirsham Meghavarnam Subhangam Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam Yogiridhyana Gamyam Vande Vishnum Bhava Bhayaharam Sarvalokaikanaatham. Beautiful. So using this shloka, visualizing this Bhagavan, Shantagaram, the one with peaceful, highly appealing form. Bhujaga Shayanam, the one who is reclining on Adishesha, the five-headed serpent. Padmanabhan, the one who has this heavenly lotus that is emanating from his navel. Suresham, the god of all gods. Bhagavan of all the devas. Vishwadharam, the supporter of the universe. The bearer of the universe. Gagana Sadrisham, the one according to who the entire universe operates, and one who has an oversight, who oversees this entire universe. Meghavarnam, one who has dark complexion like the clouds, like Krishna. Shubhangam, the one who is highly auspicious in appearance. Lakshmi Kantham, the one who is the abode of Lakshmi. Kamala Nayanam, one who has eyes like lotus petals. Yogi Hridyana Gamyam, the one who is sought this comprehension, this jnana tapasa that the rishis do to seek this one. And then Vande Vishnum, oh, I bow to Lord Vishnu. Bhava Bhayaharam, the one who is the remover of this fear, this bondage. Sarva Lokaikanatham, the one who is the Lord of all the worlds. So removing this Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha, the removal of Raga, Bhaya and Krodha. And this connect, Bhagavan himself says, that as the yugas progress, as this time, infinite time, as it passes, this connect reduces and is lost. We see that, no, even in today's generation. My mother was telling, my niece the other day, she sang this beautiful song, the other satsang. She was saying, say prayer every day. So I was trying to tell her, even in today's context, prayer, if nothing else, prayer gives humility. And humility, we have seen that humble people are more successful. You may be the most qualified, the most capable, but if you are not humble, you don't make it. Somewhere or the other, because of yourself, because of that enemy within, you lose it. So it's happening, right? It's getting lost. The connect is getting lost over the course of time. And Bhagavan assumes avatara to re-establish the connect. And he now continues. So what I said, for people who do not get this comprehension, then what Bhagavan says in verse 11.
Yata mam prapadyante tatsthataiva bhajamyaham mama vatmanu vardante manushya partha sarvashaha.
Ye yathamam prapadyante, whoever they may be, and in whatever manner they approach me, in whatever manner they connect with me. That is why when I say higher ideal, Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, Prasada Buddhi. Karma Yoga is focusing on the doing your actions, focusing on that higher ideal, whatever higher ideal it may be. So for Federer, let's say, I don't know Federer, but let's say Federer is a non-believer. But for him, the higher ideal is the tournament. God manifests in that higher ideal. If my higher ideal is my work, it is Bhagavan will manifest in that. So whichever way, ye yatha mam prapadyante, whoever that person may be, and in whatever manner they approach me, connect with me, tanstathaiva bhajamyaham, in that manner itself I bless them. If you seek victory in a tournament, I bless you in that manner. If you see success in your vocation, I bless you in that manner. But it is important to have that higher idea. Sarvashaha, in all ways, whichever way that you choose to reach to me. Mama vartmanu vartante. They follow my path only, O Partha. He tells Partha. When people do this, in whichever manner, they follow my path only. And this is one thing that I can tell you, let us focus on, forget about Bhagavan, God, Avatara, Ishvara, Rama, Krishna, Narasimha. Forget about everything. If we pursue a higher ideal and do the Karma Yoga like that, Bhagavan is, over a period of time, you become a believer. You start relating to the Bhagavan. This much challenge I can give to any other human being. Without any, I didn't, as a child, I used to argue with my mother about, why go to the temple. And even today I argue, by the way. I don't say, why do you have to go to Sri Rangam? Okay. But if you do your job with focus on the higher ideal, without selfishness, over a period of time, it takes years, 30, 40 years, maybe 25 years, but that connect with Bhagavan happens. Whether one approaches me seeking solutions, oh God, please, I have this issue, please, I have to pass this exam, let me pass this exam today. I will do whatever you want. I will come and, do 108 Pradakshana. or God, please release me. I don't want to come back to this planet again. Whatever it may be that you ask Bhagavan. Whichever way it may be. If you approach me, I bless you. And Bhagavan continues in verse 12.
काङ्क्षन्तः कर्मणां सिद्धिं यजन्त इह देवताः क्षिप्रं हि मानुषे लोके सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा.
So Bhagavan says seeking and longing for success, seeking favorable results in life from actions. People in this world, they worship gods. Like I said, God, please, I have to clear this exam. God, please, my money should become double. My investment should do really well. I've started building a house, let it come out properly. I'm taking a trip to Ooty, I should have a nice trip without any negativity. So seeking and longing for success in their action, whatever action they are taking. I'm playing a match today, I want to win. They worship gods. And why do they do that? Because satisfaction is obtained quickly. So I go play that match, I win it, I'm happy. Thank you, Bhagavan. From the actions in the world. So anything that provides sustained benefit long term is harder to attain. It requires patient, dogged effort, persistent effort over a period of time. And that then leads to long-lasting happiness. However, actions that lead to immediate gratification, they give a sense of joy. And those are the ones that are sought after. Sharanagati is not easy to attain at all. Asking Bhagavan for that true goal of spirituality, that long-lasting happiness, the Jivan Mukti, the Moksha, that is very difficult to relate to. Who wants moksha? I mean, do I even care about moksha? Let me deal with my day-to-day life. No? That is most often that is what you will hear in life. So why bother? The benefit of being religious is very visible, but the focus on spirituality is blurred. Go to Tirupati, put so many rupees in the hundi. Bhagavan, please give me this success. Bless me, oh Lord. People don't even realize that they have to go to Tirumalai, by the way. I go to Tirupati. The place also they don't get. Most people will say that. 9 out of 10 people will say, I'm going to Tirupati. They will not say, I'm going to Tirumalai. Wear a black cloth, practice abstinence for 40, I don't know how many days, okay? And then walk to the temple. I'll do this, Bhagavan, give me that. I wished that I should get a small jackfruit in my plant. I got a huge one. Thank you, Bhagavan, you are great. I asked for a promotion. I didn't get it. Do you even care? Are you even there? 2-minute noodles to crash course in stress management. Excellent. 1-day program, welcome. Sounds great. Bhagavad Gita for 26 months. Oh, let me see. I don't know. How can I be Vitaraga, Bhaya, I mean, I cannot be. This is not going to happen to me in this case. Not in this Janma. I will see later. I will worry about reading Bhagavad Gita when I am 75 years old. This is not for me. Is this an age? Is this my age to read Bhagavad Gita? Oh, come on. Or to read any other spiritual book? Not now, not right now. And once you become that way, not in this Janma. I'll see in next Janma. If there is a Janma. What takes time gives true, long-lasting, fulfilling result. But who has the patience? In Manusha Loka, people are always enticed to perform actions for immediate results. And for whatever reason, fortunate, unfortunate, that includes worship. inner transformation takes time. Inner transformation comes through karma yoga. It does not come through inner engineering. Bhagavan has engineered us. How do people ensure that they are performing karma yoga properly and also deriving the appropriate result? Bhagavan deals with that in the 13th verse of this chapter, which is a very, very, very misunderstood verse.
चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टं गुणकर्म विभागशः तस्य कर्तारमपि मां विद्य कर्तारमव्ययम्.
So Bhagavan says Chaturvarnyam, the fourfold textures, colors. Varnam means colors or textures. And the fourfold colors that make up the mind intellect. See the body mind intellect paradigm, right? The mind intellect part of it, there is a fourfold texture of that mind intellect. That makes the framework, not the physical framework, the other framework, the other part, the non-physical framework of the human being. That, Arjuna, has been created by me. And this has been created by me, Guna Karma Vibhaga Saha, based on the differentiation of gunas and karmas. And though I am the author of this Guna Karma Vibhashaha and this texture of people, how they think, know me as the non-doer and one who is immutable. Tasya kartaram apimam. I am the one who has created all of this. But know me vidhi akartaram avyayam. So this is from where the quote-unquote caste system comes into being. The gist, the substance and the meaning of this verse is that Bhagavan is saying that he is non-doer, he is changeless, even though he has created various textures and personalities through nature that determine how the human being should perform action. Action depends on the guna and the karma. And this is the foundation based on which next satsang we will see action and inaction. And how we see action in inaction and inaction in action. We will see that. But to spend a few minutes on, this has become one of the most unpopular verses because of deterioration through the yugas. Sakalena Mahata. Most misunderstood by the common people. Highly misused and forced misunderstanding. Upholders of social crime, upholders of organized religion, they have used this verse to create a lot of misconceptions. See, one of the greatest tragedy of Indian ethos, of Sanatana Dharma ethos, is that we have forgotten Sanskrit. There is nothing called caste in Sanskrit. So this creation of caste is not even there. You will not find this word caste in Sanskrit. We have understood our own scriptures through English. What are we doing now? What have I done? And what am I doing? And that English has understood it through German. Sanskrit was first translated to German. Nowhere in the Bhagavad Gita you will find this caste or class or casteism or division of society based on any of these aspects. Bhagavan only says reference or only gives reference to guna karma. Guna is nature, karma is action. And he says duties are defined based on the division of guna and karma. Guna karma vibhagayo. Natural inclinations of people come from what we have seen that earlier, right? Prakriti. The inclinations comes from the three gunas, sattva, raja and tamas. the sattvic nature is oriented towards curiosity, towards analysis, towards learning, towards teaching. And the foundation of the sattvic nature is dharma, righteousness. The rajasic nature is oriented towards action, towards generosity, towards leadership, towards social welfare, loka sangra. And again, the foundation of this rajasic nature is dharma, righteousness. The tamasic nature is oriented towards service, followership, commerce, commercial work, hard labor, not doing anything also, not inaction as in, being absorbed, laziness. And yet again, this foundation of this nature is dharma, righteousness. It is just the nature and the action of human beings which we do. There is no creature in any of the lokas that is free of these. In fact, Bhagavan will dwell with this in a much, much more detail of the three gunas. No one is free of the three gunas, which come from Prakriti. We will read that later. What I just said, Bhagavan says that no one is free of these three gunas in chapter 18. The karma and the duties, they are then prescribed as Brahmana karma, Kshatriya karma, Vaishya karma, and Shudra karma. Very similar to how we prescribe duties today in our corporations, in various livelihoods that we have. Whether we say engineer, doctor, finance, HR, whether we say CEO, vice president, director, manager, peon, whatever we say, it's exactly the same. But unfortunately, a peon's son becomes a peon and a CEO's son becomes a CEO. If that happened in the corporate world, how would it be? Over this Sakalena Mahata, it has been misused by people who have not gained the knowledge properly and who do not mean, who are adharmic by nature. But coming back, people who had a dominant sattvic nature with little bit of rajas in them, so let me take a step back. People have various permutation combination of all these natures. So those who have a dominant sattvic nature with some rajas and some lesser tamas, they were quote unquote the brahmanas, and because of their leaning towards inquisitivity, teaching, learning, they were mainly priests, teachers, advisors to kings and so on and so forth. Those who had dominant rajasic nature with some sattva and some tamas, they were the kshatriyas. Right now, sitting in the middle of the battlefield, Senayor Ubayor Madhye, Arjuna is 100% tamasic. And such a rajasic personality is complete tamasic, not even 99.9, 100% tamasic. So all the permutations, combinations are there. But the dominant rajasic nature with some sattvic and tamasic are kshatriyas, leaders, ministers, kings. People who had a dominant rajasic nature with some tamas number 2 and sattva number 3 are the commercial people, traders, farmers, shop owners, commerce people. And those who had dominant tamasic nature with some rajas and sattva were known as the Shudras, followers, workers, assistants, people who didn't do anything. It's just that the names were given. These are the names given. Like we give also, no, CEO and peon, same way. Corruption and decay crept in and finally swallowed the system. When what happened? Birth, skin color, nationality, they started determining karma in place of the guna karma. Skin color, birth, nationality. This is what Bhagavan also says. Sakalena Mahata. Yogo Nashta Parantapa. all these structuring, all got nashta. Position and knowledge leads to pride, and that leads to arrogance. Arrogance leads to insecurity. Insecurity leads to corruption. Corruption for what? Protecting what you have because of that insecurity. So I have to protect my position. I am a minister today. My son has to become, if my son doesn't become a minister, my life goes away. Mostly if you see in the Indian army, once the general has retired, you have to see a general's lifestyle. Huh? It is unbelievable. It's a fantastic lifestyle. One of the most, kingly lifestyle. The day he retires, within a week, a general comes down to earth. His son has not become the general. But has that army culture followed in politics, for example? No. You have, even though it's become a joke, Rahul Gandhi is still aspiring to become the next prime minister. See, change warriors also have to be extremely careful, because replacing one arrogance-filled corrupt system with another arrogance-filled corrupt system. The day before yesterday, I had a 2-hour long discussion with my daughter at night. There are these change warriors, like this girl who got arrested in Delhi. I don't remember her name. Change warriors have to be extremely, extremely careful. Anyway, that's a different, longer, deeper subject. Because why do they have to be careful? Replacing one corrupt system, one arrogant system with another corrupt and arrogant system will lead to another disaster. Change must be aligned to dharma. Unless it is aligned to dharma, we will not be able to bring about proper change. A vibrant society needs all kinds of people. You can't say that I don't want a person to do, driving work if I have to travel from one place to the other. I mean, mostly I drive on my own, but yeah, a lot of people need that. You have to focus your mind on what you have to do. You can't be worried about the traffic. So you need all kinds of, society needs all kinds of people to be successful. Organizations need all kinds of people to be successful. All kinds of employees to be successful. A culture where every action is glorified, every action done to perfection becomes the glory, not who is doing that action. That is why they say, in Munnabai MBBS, this guy Munnabai goes and hugs the sweeper, who is cleaning the hospital. He says, nobody, you are doing this day in and day out. Doctors are treating patients, yes, but you are cleaning this hospital, but no one even looks at you. And he's doing it extremely well. Samachara, that action. So where the perfection in action leads to glory, not who is performing that action. So how do we co-join, collaborate? Guna and karma is critical to the success of any entity, any institution, any society. If this is not followed, we will have Ram Rahims, all kinds of people who are in politics and other places. Let's not take names anyway. Bhagavan will now teach how to recognize inaction in action and action in inaction. We will see that in the next satsang. Thank you very much. Hari Om. I noticed that in these revision sections, I am taking up to 5:30. So the discussion time is being cut. I apologize for that, but these are revision sections. So, if there are thoughts or comments, we can spend another few minutes, or you can send it over the group also. Hari Om, thank you.
So repeat today's verses.
Yeah.
Sri Bhagavan imam vivasvate yogam proktavan avyayam vivasvan manavipraha manurikshvaka vibravita evam parampara praptam imam rajashayo viduhu sakali neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. Arjuna uvacha aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvataha katami tadvijaniyam vamadau pruktavaniti. अजोऽपि सन्नव्ययात्मा भूतानामीश्वरोऽपि सन् प्रकृतिं स्वामधिष्ठाय सम्भवाम्यात्ममायया यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानमधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम् परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे वीतरागभयक्रोधः मन्मया मामुपाश्रिताः बहवो ज्ञानतपसा भूता मद्भावमागताः ये यदा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तां तथैव भजाम्यहम् मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्या पार्थ सर्वशः काङ्क्षन्तः कर्मणां सिद्धिं यजन्त इह देवताः क्षिप्रं हि मानुषे लोके सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टं गुणकर्म विभागशः तस्य कर्तारमपि मां विद्यकर्तारमव्ययम् ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ
Hari Om, thank you. Any thoughts or comments?
மகாவிஸ்வாசத்தோட வேண்டினா அது நடந்துச்சுன்னா அவருக்கு தேங்க்ஸ் சொல்றதுக்காக போறோம். He is answering God. அதனால அவ்வளவு தூரம் கூட்டமா எல்லாரும் போறோம்.
My mother is giving explanation of why she wants to go to temple.
Kamala Harris 1008 தேங்காய் வச்சா பெசன்ட் போடல.
So apparently Kamala Harris cracked 108 coconuts in Besant Nagar temple in Chennai. Vice President of the United States. Basically, she's saying Mahavishwasam, if you pray with Mahavishwasam and that happens, the Purti, then you go to say thank you to the Lord. Okay, if no thoughts or comments, then we can say Hari Om and meet next Saturday. We will continue with the revision of chapter 4. Thank you all. Hari Om.